One morning, as I sat by my window sipping tea, I looked at my phone and saw a message from my daughter. It read, "Dad, we've been so busy lately. Maybe we'll catch up next week." I smiled, but deep down, it stung. I'm 80 years old, and I've lived a life full of love, sacrifice, and lessons learned. I thought moving closer to my children in my later years would bring comfort and connection, but instead, it taught me the most unexpected lesson of all. Happiness doesn't come from proximity, it comes from within. This is my true story, shaped by 80 years of experience and inspired by the timeless wisdom of Stoicism and Buddhism. Today, I'll share with you why living close to your children in old age could be the biggest mistake of your life. And trust me, the lesson I learned at the end I call the cherry blossom moment completely changed how I see life. Stay with me for the next 6 minutes. It might just change yours too. Shall we begin?
Thanks for sticking with me so far. Before we continue, please take a moment to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on more valuable content coming your way. Your support means a lot, thank you.
Let me take you back to a few years ago. My wife and I had built a beautiful life together, raising our 2 children in a warm, loving home. But as life often goes, the seasons changed. My wife passed away, leaving me with an empty house and a heart full of memories. My children had moved to different cities, busy with their families and careers. Loneliness crept in like a quiet shadow, and I thought to myself, what if I move closer to them? Surely, being near my children would bring back the sense of belonging I'd lost. With that hope, I packed up my life and moved closer to my eldest son. At first, it was wonderful. Their laughter filled the air, and I felt alive again. But as the months went by, reality settled in. The visits grew shorter, and the moments we spent together became less frequent. I found myself sitting in silence, waiting for a knock at the door that rarely came. It was during those moments of solitude that I turned to the teachings of Stoicism and Buddhism. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And Buddha taught that attachment is the root of all suffering. These words began to resonate deeply, and they guided me to reflect on my choices and the true nature of happiness. What I discovered in those quiet moments is what I'm here to share with you today. Let's dive into the lessons that changed everything for me. When I first moved closer to my son, I believed proximity would naturally lead to closeness. But here's the hard truth. Being physically near someone doesn't guarantee emotional connection. My son and his family were kind, but they had their own lives to lead, filled with work, school, and social commitments. I had unknowingly placed unrealistic expectations on them. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart." This wisdom helped me realize that love isn't about forcing relationships to fit your expectations. It's about accepting others for who they are and understanding that their lives, like mine, are complex and demanding. Over time, I learned that genuine connection doesn't come from hovering near someone, it comes from meaningful, intentional moments, no matter how rare they might be. And that shift in perspective started to bring me peace. Moving closer to my children, I unconsciously placed an emotional weight on them. I expected their attention, their time, and their company without ever openly communicating these desires. What I didn't realize was that these unspoken expectations were creating tension, making them feel like they couldn't meet my needs. Buddha's teachings struck me during this time. Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. It reminded me that my happiness couldn't depend on others, not even my family. I began to see that I needed to take responsibility for my emotional well-being instead of silently expecting others to fill the void. One day, I sat my son down and told him, "I moved here hoping to feel closer, but I realize now that wasn't fair to you. I want to focus on building my own peace, and I hope we can continue to have meaningful moments without any pressure." That conversation was a turning point for both of us. At first, living alone felt like a punishment. But one quiet afternoon, sitting in my small garden, I saw an ant struggling to carry a crumb across uneven ground. A gust of wind blew the crumb away, and for a moment, the ant hesitated. Then, it simply turned and moved on. It was then that Buddha's words echoed in my mind. Attachment is the root of suffering. I realized that clinging to the past, my idea of how life should be, was holding me back. Instead of resisting solitude, I started embracing it. I began tending to my garden daily, finding peace in the rhythm of planting, watering, and watching life grow. These moments of solitude weren't empty. They were rich with reflection and self-discovery. Another transformative insight came when I began volunteering at a local senior center. Sharing stories, laughter, and simple meals with others in my stage of life brought a new kind of joy. I learned that family isn't always about blood ties. It's about the bonds you create with those who share your journey. As Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Choosing to connect with a broader community gave me a renewed sense of purpose and belonging. I wasn't just waiting for my children to fill my life anymore. I was actively enriching it on my own terms. The most profound change came when I let go of my expectations entirely. By not clinging to the idea that my children needed to visit me a certain number of times or call me every week, I freed both them and myself. Ironically, this freedom brought us closer. When my children visited, it was because they wanted to, not out of obligation. This reminded me of the Stoic principle of amor fati, loving one's fate. Do not demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do, and you will go on well. When I stopped trying to control every aspect of our relationship, I found that our time together became more authentic and joyful. Stay with me, because the next lesson is the one that completely transformed my life. This was the hardest but most liberating lesson of all. For years, I had tied my sense of worth to my role as a parent. Moving closer to my children only amplified this, as I subconsciously expected them to take care of me the way I had once cared for them. But over time, I realized that relying too much on others, no matter how well-meaning, can erode your independence and self-esteem. Buddha once said, "No one saves us but ourselves. No one can and no one may. We ourselves must walk the path." These words became my mantra as I began to reclaim my independence. I started by setting small goals, cooking new recipes, fixing things around the house, and even picking up painting, a hobby I'd abandoned decades ago. This shift not only gave me a sense of accomplishment, but also changed how my children viewed me. Instead of seeing me as a burden, they saw me as someone thriving in his golden years. It rekindled their admiration and respect, and our bond became stronger because of it. Finally, the lesson that has brought me lasting peace. Instead of focusing on what I didn't have, constant visits, regular calls, I began to focus on what I did have. The health to enjoy each day, the wisdom of my years, and the love of my family, even if it wasn't always expressed in the ways I expected. Marcus Aurelius's words guided me. When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love. Every morning, I started my day by writing 3 things I was grateful for, no matter how small. It could be the warmth of the sun on my skin, the sound of birds in the garden, or a simple cup of tea. Gratitude doesn't erase life's challenges, but it softens them. It reminds us to cherish what we have rather than lament what we lack. This simple practice transformed my outlook and allowed me to embrace my life with open arms. As I sit here sharing my story, I hope these lessons resonate with you. Life in old age isn't about clinging to the past or trying to control the future. It's about living fully in the present, finding joy in simplicity, and nurturing the relationships that matter. Whether you're considering moving closer to family or seeking peace within yourself, remember that happiness comes from acceptance, gratitude, and self-reliance. These lessons have not only shaped my journey, but have also brought me a sense of fulfillment I never thought possible. And if there's one thing you take away, let it be this: you are never too old to learn, grow, and find peace. As I look back on these years and the lessons I've shared, I realize that old age is not a time of decline. Moving closer to my children taught me so much more than I could have imagined. Not about them, but about myself. It forced me to confront my own attachments, expectations, and fears. And through that, I found a peace I hadn't known before. Buddha's words echo in my mind. Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. And Marcus Aurelius reminds me, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. These philosophies, one rooted in Buddhism and the other in Stoicism, blend beautifully to guide us through life's challenges, no matter our age. So, if you're at a crossroads, wondering if living close to family is the right choice, take a moment to reflect. It may not be about the physical distance, but the emotional freedom and independence you cultivate. Remember, the most meaningful connections thrive when nurtured with mutual respect, space, and understanding. Thank you for spending these moments with me and allowing me to share my story. If my experiences resonate with you, I invite you to reflect on your own path. Leave a comment below sharing what lesson from today's story struck you the most. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories, wisdom, and reflections from the journey of life. Until next time, take care of your heart, cherish your independence, and embrace the golden years with open arms.